poems. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. Rod Keith was a famous song poem composer. Song Poems, which is another amazing documentary you guys have to check out. They're basically, it was a popular thing in Nashville where you could write lyrics and send it in and have it composed, and it was sort of sold in this way like, you can make $1 million and be a rock star, and then, you know, some studio guys would basically make compositions, sort of like what Microsoft is doing with Songsmith today in the very later type of version. But so they would come back with these really weird lyrics and this just kind of silly music, you know, very just created in an hour, you know, to kind of go along with this. But there, one guy, Rod Keith, he used a lot of Chamberlin for that.
And then really the only way the Mark II was used like it was intended, which is the Mark II sound effects console that was used for sound effects for Doctor Who, for instance, for the old UK show, and BBC used it for
right, the BBC
lots.
Used it.
And that was the only time that the Mellotron, an old Mellotron, so to say, was used in the way it was supposed to be, as the sound effects machine. And it would be so interesting. That would be really interesting to see. And I don't remember what band it was, but I think one band used the rhythms, but they were used in a progressive kind of way. So it's just jumbled up rhythms used on that album, and so far I haven't found any album that used the rhythms and the leads in the way that they were supposed to be used, like in a big band kind of fashion.
In terms of recordings, I have talked to people and heard from people whose, you know, like fathers used to play them in bars, in small like venues and entertainment-wise, though I don't know that they were recording them. But that, I imagine that they were doing it in a style.
That's the whole interesting thing about it. It's a totally different crowd that it was built for. It's the parlor kind of country club people that that it was built for, and those people never recorded.
Right.
So.
And while those people weren't the most common to adopt them, some of them did buy them and use them.
Yeah, in the beginning. The Mark I, so to say.
Right, exactly, the
and
Mark I.
And often the Mellotron company bought back the Mark Is, converted them to Mark II, which is only more or less, it's a change of software. The tapes were changed out, and some minor improvements, and then they resold them. So that's one of the reasons that the Moody Blues, for instance, that's an old country club machine that went to the Moody Blues through the Mellotron company.
And we have, do you still want to ask?
Yeah, Mark Vail.
Do you know what happened with the original Chamberlin master tapes?
I have them. Yes, yes. They're small plastic spools, and when I went through them, it was exactly 50 years ago since the first recording had been made. So I used old Ampex equipment to play them off and to be able to use them in my machines.
So you are using them in the analog machine?
Analog machine, yeah. So they sound great. Those recordings were amazing and just a great sound. And actually, I found out in looking through those recordings recently, he made some of the Music Master recordings were actually not in his living room. It's in a studio that we still have to figure out where it is. And it's more of a reverb sound to it. You can hear that. But most of the recordings are made in his living room where he's shouting at his wife to turn it off. Tape machine on and off.
Yes, and actually his wife, who is a lovely lady and is still alive, but is from a very older generation and doesn't want to be the woman of the family speaking on film, but she definitely helped us and gave us some background information. Yeah, she's very sweet.